Call this meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Any changes to the agenda? I think it was G, police officer, full-time hire.
Yep, there are two changes,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor. 7G, police officer full-time hire, and 7H, purchase development agreement, First Industries.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Open forum, if anybody would like to say anything at the open forum, this is your time. All right, we're on to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes, bills, purchase orders, investments. There is two donation, resolution number 2024-16, $1,000 from Quick Trips towards the Melrose Fire Department for the ladder truck. And then a resolution number 2024-17, a donation of $500 from the Roving Hillbilly Snowmobile Club towards the Melrose Fire Department. Just want to say thank you to them for helping out. There is a pay application number 2, final from Aztec for 2023 bonding wearing course. And then resolution number 2024-18, gambling resolution for St. Mary's for the June 29th, so for Riverfest. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. On the reports. All right, HRA, Barry and Nancy, would you like to come up and talk?
So, Mr. Mayor, this item was something that was tabled at the last meeting because you had asked for HRA, Barry's the new executive director for the HRA, to come and make a presentation for the HRA activities and budget. So, Mr. Barry Haig is here along with Nancy Raring. Nancy is the president of the HRA board, so.
Yes, and Barry, welcome to Melrose. We're glad you're here. And Nancy was one of my role models when I first got elected on the council, so she pulled my hair every once in a while to keep me in line, so.
She's pulling mine.
Yes, and she put me on the HRA board, and it was really, really enlightening to learn what HRA has done for the city of Melrose all these years, so.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you for the opportunity as well. You know, I'm not sure how many people know the history of it. As a new guy, it was really good for me to go back and look at it. George O'Brien is a name that a lot of people, when they hear it, their ears perk up and they smile. George, as a former mayor, started the HRA. 1967, that process began. 1971, people began to call it home. That's a big deal. George was a visionary. He knew we needed housing. He knew that housing was key to development. He knew it was key to jobs, and he knew it was key for people to have a quality of life. Move it up.
Please. Thank you.
So for that, I thank George. He was also, when I say visionary, he was the first HRA in the state of Minnesota to be smoke-free. That was in 2003. HRA did not mandate that until 2016 with an active date of 2018. He knew that his job as the director there was to make sure people's lives were as good as possible. And by removing the smoking element, that did improve their lives. Ticked off a few, no doubt about it. But he put in rules that allowed them to smoke outside of the common areas and in the apartment, outside of their apartments. One of the questions that I see quite often, I just was at a symposium today in the Twin Cities, and the question is, what is public housing? If you ask the average person, it's a variety of answers. I'm not going to ask you guys for answers. And the answers can be anywhere from not exactly the best property to individuals that are struggling and are not exactly contributing to society. And I would like you to know that that is definitely not the case, especially in Minnesota. We've got, right now, 65% of all public housing facilities in the state of Minnesota are 50 units or less. When I think of public housing and when I think of the individuals that are there, I think of the folks that you see in church, that you see at the store. The elderly woman who, no fault of her own, couldn't live on the farm anymore, husbands passed away, and, you know, they didn't make a lot of money. They had a full life, but they didn't make a lot of money. So their social security is very limited. Roseview Manor is income-based. If you bring in $1,000 a month, your rent's gonna be $300. It's 30% of your income. All utilities are paid, with the exception of your own personal internet or cable. Otherwise, everything's covered. That's tremendous peace of mind. When you have successful housing, you have a successful quality of life. They don't have to worry quite as much about changes in rents, things along those lines, unexpected heating bills. It allows them to flourish. It allows them to age in place. You know, another gift that we've got at Roseview Manor is LSS. If you know the ladies, they're phenomenal. They provide services 7 days a week, 8 to 4. And that really does provide a bridge to keep people from going into the nursing homes. I mean, we have to face it. We're the feeder team for assisted living, the nursing homes. But if we can keep those folks in this rent-controlled situation with their friends, and many of them have been there well over 10, 15 years. You know, statistically, our average age at Roseview is 76. Their average income is $21,000 a year. The average rent is $436 a month. Lowest rent is $50 a month, highest rent is $712. We have 57% of our tenants are considered extremely low for their income base. 25% are considered very low, and 18% are considered low. There is an income cap, so you have to go by those guidelines. Our budget is determined by Congress. We get a monthly operating subsidy that comes in from HUD. We get an annual capital fund, which comes in from HUD as well. We also have our rent. That changes. That's a moving target. It makes it interesting at times for budgeting and planning, but with the help of a really outstanding board, I can tell you right now, we're doing good. You know, I always like to tell the tenants that my management style is I try to say yes whenever possible. I haven't said yes to the pool they want, but we're working on some other things. We are definitely doing some renovating. The entire inside, the 1971 wallpaper is all gone. It's all new paint coming. All new paint is in. We're putting in new carpeting. We're investing into Roseview Manor, and the tenants are thrilled. It's fun to hear them talking to their relatives when they, I got to say too, the community of Melrose, the family support that I see out there for the tenants is huge. I mean, I was at a meeting today, and I belong to a group of 36 different executive directors in the region. And we are very fortunate that we have that sense of community and family here, because it makes their quality of life that much easier and better, and it makes my job easier. And their family doesn't hesitate to come in and talk to me, which I love and enjoy. You know, so those are the things, when you think of public housing, think of that neighbor lady, think of the one down in church that always comments on how cute your kids are, your grandkids are. That's what we have at Roseview Manor. One of the things that I also wanted to mention was it was probably 6, 7 years ago, more and more changes were coming in HUD. And those changes have done anything but make it easier. So we've gone full digital now. Those changes are, the only thing that's constant is the change. And you guys are familiar with that. You're seeing it with all the different ordinances and rules. So staying on top of that and making sure that the board knows what's going on is a lot of work, a lot of effort. And they jump in. They ask the right questions. My point is an engaged board is a powerful board, and we're very lucky to have that. You know, I've seen some really interesting boards throughout my career in property management, as well as my group that I network with. And what I see here at Melrose is, so far, everybody I've dealt with has been top-notch. And for that, I'm very thankful. It makes my job easier again. You know, one thing that I would like to bring up is there are, there are other agencies in the area that do pay a stipend for their boards. We don't collect any levy within the city. We don't collect any state tax. Federally, we cannot use the federal money that is given to us by HUD for our stipend. They don't want you to do that. In 2006, George had reached out to the board. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that documentation. Colleen, you had shared some with us, and we had gone back and forth with Scott on some stuff, information that was provided. You know, one of George's commitments was to try to get his board recognized for the work they do. And that was the entire gist of this letter from 2006. If you knew George, you knew how he wrote and how he got to the point. I'm going to read a little bit of that, and I'm just going to let you guys marinate on it a little bit. This is George, June 29th, 2006. I'm not going to try to sound like him. The majority of authorities that we have contacted do pay their commissioners. Considering the commitment that has been made by our present commissioners and the time that they have spent in their positions, it does not seem fair that they do not get compensated at the same rate as all of the other boards and commissions that function within the city framework. Particularly, when the HR commissioners, just down the line in Sauk Center, get paid, and then he goes into specifics. Merle, Roy? Thank you, has been a commissioner since January of '69. Don Meyer since March of '72. Ray Moss since January of '78. And then we have our newcomers. Keep in mind, this is 2006. We have our newcomers, Nancy, who's still here. Came in January of 2001. And Marlene Clausen since January of 2003. Rather than finding ways to deny payment, I would think that the city would be looking for ways to reward their loyalty. George is pretty straightforward. We all know that. I stand behind George. I hope that the council will see fit to, in their heart as well as in the memory of George, I hope, a one-time payment to cover, a little stipend for the folks. We're seeing the board change. We're seeing more, younger families, more of a time commitment. As HUD requires more things, we're requiring more of the board. Average meetings running an hour or more. Nancy tries to keep me on task for that. So please, keep that in mind when you're looking at your decision. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. If you have any questions, if time allows, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
How many board members do you have?
We have 5 members right now.
5?
Yep.
Okay.
We have Nancy, who's the chair, Karen Kostenson, who's the vice chair, Linda Bragelman, who's a regular commissioner, Jolene Weiling, commissioner, and Matt McDonald. And we also, you'll end up doing correspondence via email and whatnot. I try to send the agenda and the minutes and everything along with the financials prior to the board meeting so that they don't get blindsided by anything, they can prepare. So it's not just the time they're at the board, they're taking time out of their personal life to review these issues and get up to speed. And Nancy is there often. I don't know if I share too much or too little with you, but I want to make sure that she knows what's going on. And so I'm a roll up my sleeves kind of guy, and I tend to bring her up to speed as often as I think it's pertinent. And for that reason, she does end up spending more time at the HR. Any other questions I can answer?
Are the meetings monthly or?
We have a once a month meeting, correct. It's Thursday, it's the fourth Thursday of the month at 5:30 p.m. And it's at the HRA in Melrose.
Okay.
Certainly.
Is that the word?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, through Rosie.
You knew I wasn't just going to be quiet. When I got on the board, I was the council representative, so I was there from 2000 to 2008. And then I pulled Joe in when I got off. So it'll be 25 years, which is nothing compared to Don Meyer and Mel, who spent all those years. As Joe alluded to, one of the rewards of being on the board is just making things nice for the tenants, so they have a comfortable place to live. Nobody is worried that we're not getting paid, so we're going to quit or anything like that. I think what we have to look at here, the logic of it is that the city appoints a board. We all need to follow the statutes of HUD. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We can't pay out of our funds. It's a statute. So the logic to me would be just to compensate that position, not Nancy Raring, but whoever goes into that position would be nice to have some compensation think it might be easier to get some of our younger folks to come on board and represent the community as well. So I guess that's what we're looking for, just a little sign of appreciation. So. We used to get breakfast back in the early days.
To be on the board, do you have to be in city limits, or is anybody able to?
Yes, yes, we follow those same guidelines that you do for your boards.
Okay.
Yes.
In other communities, Nancy, when you mentioned, I think, Barry, that some are paid and some are not as of this point, it's kind of,
Yeah.
Yes.
are all of them paid by the cities that they're
In
in?
most cases, what we're seeing.
I was just curious if they're paid by the city versus like county,
Sauk Center
state.
pays $300 a year for each board member. Back to the question within the city limits, there's not a statute on that which I find interesting. And Sauk Center has actually opened up their boundaries a bit because of their trouble finding people who would be board members within the official city limits. So that is at the discretion, to the best of my knowledge, and from the city attorney at my last location where I was an HRA director, there was no statute on the file that stated that. It was up to the discretion of the mayor. But yet, most of them are paid from the city. Some get paid per meeting, some get paid, sometimes the city works, if there's 5 members, they cut 5 checks. Sometimes they cut 1 check for a lump, and then it comes into us, it's a line item in our budget, and we disperse those checks. It's whatever works best for the city. I'm sure the finance individuals would appreciate one line. And once we have that, we show it as an income coming in from the city, and then we're perfectly fine having that as far as an audit point. And it goes out just right to the board member.
Are the members that are on the board that do not live in Melrose, I'm assuming some of them names were, like, do they come from St. Cloud or from?
No, my understanding is they all live with
Everybody, the whole board?
Yeah, some years ago, I believe the council passed that.
Correct.
You decided that all board members had to live within the city limits.
Okay.
Because at that time, we had someone who did not, and then she needed to leave the board, and we had to get somebody else. In Sauk Center, I believe they get a stipend of $300 a year. And, that would be a total of $1,500 for you for the year. Just a sign of appreciation.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Chief Mouse?
Good evening. March 2024 in our traffic area, we had 15 citations and 53 verbal warnings. In 2024, 245 calls and requests for service, which matched 2023. We ended on ICR number 751 in 23, and this year was 858, so we're up by about 107 calls for the year at the end of March. Some areas of note, we did have an officer who resigned. They'll be working through the end of the month. They're moving on to a neighboring department for some more opportunities in their career. We do have applications and end dates set out, as well as interviews set. We're hoping to hit the May council meeting with a person and a candidate to move forward with hiring, training, and all those sorts of things. I believe that's pretty much all we have going on in the department right now, unless there's any questions or.
Have any questions? Nope. Thanks for all you do there, Chief. City Attorney, Scott?
Yeah, just a few things. Like I say, you'll be getting your review of your audit this year. Every year, the audit asks me for a letter, which I did issue, and they're just looking to see if, as your attorney, I'm sitting on information that wouldn't show up in the books, potential liabilities or claims that would affect their audit. At any given time, the city's probably involved in some kind of legal action. Most of them are not you know, they're wondering if there's legal action that if it went against the city would, you know, significantly harm or damage the city's finances, and no, we're not involved in anything like that. So I tell them that every year, and did again this year. Other items, you know, the community development projects are ongoing. We've got one item later on the agenda, and then I attended some meetings with the staff and the council and MATA to, you know, to discuss, you know, these projects. And then finally, this is again from last time, we're still trying to deal with the old agency that we had to help, you know, collect bills from the ambulance services. We changed because they were not particularly helpful, and they're still not being particularly helpful. We tried sending a demand letter to get some of the information we need to clean up, you know, the outstanding items, and they're ignoring us. So we'll have to sit down and look at the next steps to clean. Basically, we need to clean up the mess. We got accounts that haven't been settled that they were handling, and then they just shut down and left us folding the bag. So that's all I've got so far, unless the council's got some questions.
Thanks, Scott. Sheila?
So when we wrapped up the first quarter of 2024, we had 40 building permits totaling just shy of 1.8 million. But we've had a very busy couple of first weeks of April, and now we are at 54 with a valuation of 24.5 million already for 2024. Quick Trip is working on that additional signage we talked about last month. Both apartment buildings are well underway. We're hearing they're getting good responses and are starting the leasing process. A main component of that jump up to $24.5 million valuation on building permits was we did receive the permit from Stearns Electric for their new headquarters. We've also received permits from the Church of St. Mary's for a shed. Blue Door Storage is expanding, and MKI Enterprises is starting some storage sheds near Shaggy's. Dave will be speaking, I'm sure, shortly on the sidewalk, but the sidewalk project starts on Monday. Very exciting, 3-week project. They've already started mobilizing, and the equipment is near the baseball fields today. So we are happy about that. We did not receive the local road improvement funding for Main Street. Only one small city in all of MnDOT's 3rd district did. We scored pretty well. But on the bright side now, we do not have to wait for additional review of plans and conduct extra testing, and our contractors do not have the elevated requirements that the state funding would have required. So, yeah, Dave will also talk about the other 2 road construction projects which are starting. Last week, I was appointed by the Stearns County Commissioners to be on the Stearns County Housing Trust Fund Board of Directors. This is a board that is going to provide loans and grants to property owners, homeowners, and for-profit developers to work on affordable and workforce housing. So I had my first meeting down in Cold Spring next week on that. Next week, staff is going to be meeting to start discussing some nuisance concerns and some public health concerns on some commercial properties. We've received some calls from individuals and people coming to City Center to express their concerns, and we do appreciate that response from people. And I also want to invite people to the Festival of the Arts. The Festival of the Arts is being held by the Arts Council. It is May 1st through the 3rd. City Center here is going to be hosting some displays and workshops. There's also going to be events at school. The festival is going to feature artwork, quilts, local authors, and choir and speech performances. Just a fun fact, those same days here in Melrose are also the citywide garage sale. It is also when the Lions will be building the playground down in the park, and it is also prom. So get ready, those couple days here in town ought to be very interesting. I have a couple other agenda items later.
All right. Dave?
All right, good evening. I thought Sheila was going to take my entire report for the evening, but she didn't, so I have some things left to talk about. As she mentioned, sidewalk starts Monday, equipment's out there, expecting 3 weeks, and I think we wrapped up and done, so hopefully it's a quick burn here. Little inconvenience at the baseball park for a couple weeks, but the school's been great again, as we've said the whole time, so no reason to believe that won't continue. Railroad Avenue starts the following Monday, the 29th. Curb and gutter going down late in the week that week, so we'll gravel this on the 29th, so things are gonna move out there really quick. Sounds like asphalt plants are opening up the second week of May, so we can look for pavement probably by the end of May too. So it'd be really nice to get that all wrapped up and completed. Lastly, Main Street, starting on May 6th tentatively. We have a pre-construction meeting next week on that one to confirm those dates, but that is what I'm hearing from contractors. They'd like to start May 6th. So get ready. Quiet spring is about to come to an end.
Okay.
Anything else for me?
Charlie? All right. Clean.
So just a legislative update, there's several bills that we are watching right now. One is Senate File 4899, which would distribute $25 billion to communities under 5,000 population for street maintenance, repairs, and reconstruction. It's, if enacted, it's a formula basis, and they would be distributing those funds in July of '24. So that has been held over for inclusion in the omnibus bill. Senate File 5157 is one that we're watching very carefully because it is the bill that's being proposed that says that if there is any developer out there that receives tax increment financing in excess of $100,000 would be required to pay prevailing wages. This is a huge concern for us, especially from a standpoint that we really work with any projects, especially those that receive TIF, to make sure that they try and employ or use local contractors as much as possible. So this is one that we are watching. I've had an opportunity to talk to Senator Westrom about this, and it is one that I don't see going, hopefully, it doesn't get very far, in the legislative session, so we'll see. The other one that is being supported by the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities very strongly is securing funding for EMS services. The governor's proposal was to fund at $16 million, whereas Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities is asking for $120 million. So very large gap there. For those not familiar with it, EMS is your emergency services, and it basically, in rural areas in particular, this is an area that really needs help in terms of funding. We are, in Melrose, we're a little bit of an exception to that, not a little, we're a lot of exception to that rule because we're very blessed to be able to have a local community ambulance service here, along with many volunteers that are very dedicated. But it's still, if it comes through, it's gonna help all of us. So House File 4010, and I joke because for a long time, we talked about cannabis at every meeting, and it's been a while, so I thought I should probably bring that up. I'm sorry, it's House File 4757. So they are planning to make changes to laws regulating cannabis and related products because the changes are designed to clarify the role of the Office of Cannabis Management and what local controls can be imposed. House File 4010 is one that has been pared down significantly. This is one we talked about a couple months ago that had all these restrictions saying that people can basically build wherever they want, residential. You can put 8 units on a single family lot, lots of sort of nonsense in terms of not being practical, not making any sense whatsoever in terms of how you would develop a community. So it has been pared down. They're still looking at multifamily housing can be located in any zoning district with limited conditional use permit requirements, parking and height restrictions. Still a very difficult thing for communities in some cases. So hopefully that one also doesn't make it past, make it too far here. But that one does, I think that one does have some legs on it. So we'll see what happens at the 11th hour here. The one that, the other one that is the copper one, there was a big splash in the Star and Tribune with the the mayor of St. Paul and the governor were out saying they want to impose legislation on people having copper. Because down in the cities, they're having a lot of issues with people stealing copper. So again, not really one that affects us, and so certainly not one that we're wanting them to, or we're certainly not supporting it at this point. Finally, the other thing I do want to mention, I did mention before, but our ambulance crew has had a very busy couple days. They've responded to over 11 calls in, I think, a 40-some hour period. It's just kind of crazy. But they would not have been able to do that without the help of our police department and our fire department. So I want to, this is from the ambulance coordinator, and I want to express this in front of the council as well, that there's a huge thank you to Melrose Fire Department for helping out the ambulance department. There was a situation where they were on a basic call, it turned into a CPR process, and then they had to there were 2 patients. So fire really stepped up to help, being extra hands, driving, et cetera. So it just goes to show that, again, and you guys know this because we talk about it a lot, that our EMS here in town, we're very blessed to have our police, our ambulance, and our fire. So we just want to publicly acknowledge all that they do for the community. And with that, Mr. Mayor, the other things I have are further on the agenda.
All right, sounds good. Old business HRA stipend. Did you guys have any concerns about that? Can I get a motion to?
No, I don't. The only thing I was wondering is that if they, like some of our boards, if you don't show up for that meeting, are you still paying that person even though they didn't show up for that monthly meeting?
I
Or,
think that's why we've asked for just a yearly stipend,
okay,
and most of the members are there all of the time. So
okay,
no, that's not anything we discussed, I think we just give us a yearly stipend that would cover.
okay.
When you mentioned that, Justin, I was curious too, is one of the 5 is our council member,
Yes.
so would that already be covered under our, so it should maybe just be the other 4, or?
I don't
No,
think we don't pay a
she-
stipend to Jolene on that board, do we?
Well, don't we, I think,
Well,
we're
but
all.
you get paid on like Meta board, and you get paid on, so
Right.
she would probably still get paid for that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I didn't know if it'd be separate from what we're approving for this.
No.
So if she's currently not getting paid,
She would be in on that though, because she's part of the board member, right? The 5 that you said.
She's a voting member,
She has a 5-year term.
yeah.
as long as it's written that way, that for, like Nancy said, going forward, it will be someone other than her or other than Jolene, that it goes by the member and not by them, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So the council member that sits on that board would be part of that.
Would be part of
Yeah.
the stipend. They would
Sounds
get
good.
paid also.
And if someone's term was cut short for health or whatever, it'd be prorated, of course.
Yep.
And you guys have been excellent at getting board members appointed, so thank you for that, that's huge.
I would recommend not per diems, but 1 check, and that's it.
Well, no, that's what
Yeah.
we're gonna do, is just 1 check,
Yep.
funnel it from
Yep.
them to you, and we're done.
Correct.
So,
I'm fine with that. I'll make that motion.
okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Huh?
Was there a dollar amount on that check?
Yeah, it was 1,500.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. All right, city center flooring.
So we received 2 quotes to replace the flooring at the city offices. The areas would be carpet tiles in the back office area, reception area, and vinyl flooring in the copy room. This was a capital improvement budgeted item that we had in the budget for 20,000, 10 of that coming from general, and then 10 from utility. The quotes came in under budget. Hennon's flooring was least expensive at $15,182.22. And so we are recommending that the council give consideration, concurring with the Public Utilities Commission, who approved this at their meeting on April 8th, to approve the quote from Hennon Flooring. And again, that is for the $15,182.22, and it will be split among the 2 boards. So
Get a motion?
that is what I'm asking for, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
I
Okay,
can make a motion.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we are on to seasonal part-time worker, and,
Yep.
yeah, Mr. Welly applied for it, Nathan Welly. Start them at the step one, wage. Can I get a motion to?
I'll make a motion.
All right,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Paint sprayer,
Yeah, the 1998 Graco 35 laser paint stripper is due for replacement. Again, this is a 24 capital improvement plan item. So Supervisor Andrew Rusling received a quote from Diamond Vogel on 2 different models. He also, 2 different models that would fit our replacement needs. So he is recommending that we go with the Graco line laser V39 HP Auto. The amount was a little bit over the threshold of 10,000, but not a lot. I can't remember how much more that was, like 13 maybe? 11,125. Okay, thank you, Patty. 11,125. So a little bit over what we had in the capital plan for that, but still what we believe would be a really good addition and also something that is very much needed for that department. So I'd recommend that the council give consideration to the purchase of that per Supervisor Rusling's.
I'll make a motion approving that.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Main Street project bed, do you want to talk about it, Dave?
Yep, sure can do that. All right, we opened bids on March 28th for the work. 9 bids received ranging between 2.9 million and 3.9 million. Engineer's estimate was about 3.25 million, so certainly within what we were looking for and pretty good bids. A little bit was Molitor Excavating out of Wayne Park. They did our project last year, so they're familiar with the community. It sounds like this would be their primary project for the year and pretty much their only project for the year, so we'd see both of their crews in town pretty much for the summer, so we can knock it out pretty quick. From the sounds of it, they're gonna start on the east end by Coburn's and try to actually wrap 2 blocks up and get them completed back to gravel before they really move on with other things to kind of move things along as they go. So tentative plan, I certainly appreciate that plan from their end. The Main Street bid was $2,678,869.08. And the bid for First Street South and Sixth Avenue was $257,612.55, including the same bid. So both will be awarded to Molitor Excavating for a total bid of $2,936,481.63.
All right, any questions or concerns?
Are they gonna handle that the same all the way to the hospital, is like a few blocks at a time or half at a time, or?
So what they'll do is they'll move forward with the sanitary sewer will pretty much continue, but then that second crew comes back and does the water main behind them. And then then the street crew comes in, so they're gonna be pretty much just moving constantly down. But the goal is to get them done a couple blocks at a time, which is fantastic. So they won't open everything up west of Fifth until they're ready for the street. We also won't see anything over by the bowling alley until the streets are ready to go on the main street too. So, sounds positive to me.
Yeah.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Railroad West land transfer, Sheila?
As we have a developer interested in the lots in Railroad West, to facilitate the development agreement, the Melrose Area Development Authority needs to transfer those 25 lots to the city of Melrose. A purchase agreement and development agreement are going to be put together and will be presented at a council meeting soon. We just met and discussed the TIF on that today. For now, we are asking the council to accept the transfer of 25 lots from MATA to the city by quitclaim deed.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Thank you. All right, retaining wall, Veda contract. Anybody?
Yep, so we're again requesting a capital improvement project. This is a retaining wall that goes down to the police offices, the police garage and the offices, and the one that's adjacent to, obviously, Riverside Flats. A capital item, it was a capital item in the budget. We obtained quotes, and Veda was the lowest quote at $137,000, which is $3,000 less than the approved budget of $140,000. The council were requesting to approve this. The Public Utilities Commission did approve their half of it. No, I apologize, I'm wrong there. That's on you. No, it is a 50-50, sorry. It is a 50-50 split, so, council to approve the quote of 137 from Veda Contracting for replacement of the city center retaining wall, with the cost being split 50-50 between the general fund and utility fund.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Police officer hire, did you want to visit with that at all, Craig, or just we want to get this, we want to get a posting and advertising for another full-time police officer, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay,
We're just asking you guys to concur with the posting and advertising for a full-time officer.
And then if this takes a while, I know we had this whole discussion last time with back pay and stuff like that. Is this, I mean, is this gonna clarify or?
No, the MOU that was taken
Or-
care of earlier in the year is already in place, we're okay with
Yeah, we're fine with that.
okay,
Right,
all
I'll
right.
make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. I just want to say thank you to Officer Matt Mormon for all his hard work. He's done a great job for our community and appreciate everything he's done. Very good with all the kids. I know my kids are going to be sad to see him go, but I just want to say thank you for all he's done and enjoy his next endeavor. And then purchase development agreement with Carson's Industries.
So the city council and MATA have been working with Carson's Industries on a development agreement in the I-94 Industrial Park. It includes part of Lot 4, Block 1, and Lot 1, Block 4, and part of Lot 3, Block 1. And it is going to require a replat and realigning of Industrial Park Northwest. At your January meeting, you authorized replatting subject to a signed purchase agreement. The project would be a phased move by Carson Industries into the park, starting with shipping and receiving this summer. Jake Altendorf, president of Carson Industries, is here to answer any questions that you have. He has executed his portion of the purchase agreement, and we are here tonight to get council approval. Jake, if you want to say.
Hey, Nick. Welcome here.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for us at all, or?
No, I guess I would just express appreciation for the support and staying in town. We've been here for many, many years, and we hope to continue. So we've grown quite a bit in the last couple of years. Need some more space, and appreciate the city partnering with us.
Yes, and we really appreciate, the past history and now the future history of Carson's Industries, and it's nice to see, what's been developed through Carson's Industries over the years, even from the strawberries or apples around, from canoes that we had at our house growing up. It's great to see how your business is thriving, and we're really excited for the new Carson's Industry.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad you're here.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And Mr. Mayor, Scott Demick did review everything regarding the purchase agreement, so Scott crafted that for us, so.
Yeah, so the council can consider authorizing me and Patty Hazy to execute the purchase development agreement with Carson Industries.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. So thank you very much.
I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Ryan, so he can do what he needs to do. I'm not sure where his video's at.
We'll see, I was trying to get it on here today.
Yeah.
Welcome to the City of Melrose 2023 financial statement presentation.
Thanks.
My name is Justin Nelson. I am a partner with Apple. I'd like to just start by saying a quick thank you to all the Melrose finance staff for all their help as part of the audit process. We couldn't have done it without their help, specifically the finance director. I'd also like to just say a quick thank you to you as the council for having us as your audit firm. We've been partners for a number of years and continue to appreciate our relationship. So thank you. All right, so we'll go into a brief introduction and we'll cover the presentation. So we will go over the audit results, and go over why we're hired, go over the opinion provided on the audit. We'll then get into the general fund results as well as some other governmental funds, the enterprise funds, and we'll close with some key performance indicators in comparing the city of Melrose to others under 10,000 in population and others in the county. All right, so we'll go into the audit results for 2023. So again, the city did receive an unmodified clean audit opinion, which is the opinion that the city is looking for. To arrive at that opinion, we did come on site and test a number of different transactions around paying of bills, paying of employees, total billing transactions, transactions, as well as taxes and other grant information, what the council gets to make decisions, et cetera. So again, our opinion is based on the internal controls, the financial statements and related internal controls, and we do not have any audit findings related to internal control that we are reporting as part of our audit for 2023. So again, a really good thing for the city to have a clean audit, a good unmodified opinion. The second thing we are required to do as part of our audit is test state statutes and Minnesota legal compliance. The Office of the State Auditor does put guides on their website that we are required to test as part of our audit. A couple examples of those items would be testing of contracts and bids, as well as timely payment of claims within 35 days. We also don't have any instances of non-compliance or findings related to Minnesota compliance for 2023, so again, good results there. All right, so we'll get into some of the general fund results for 2023. So again, as we see here, we'll start with the the reserve to budget charts. I think this is a really good one to look at where things are at for the city now and into the future. So we do see three lines. Again, the first I'll point out is the unassigned general fund balance for the city, as well as the general fund expenditure budget for now and for the future. Again, we do compare that offset by 1 year, looking at the reserve level compared to the future year's expenses, as well as the city's fund balance policy as a block on here from 35 to 50%. And we do have one note there that there was a little bit of a change back in 2021 to show some of the previously presented unassigned balances as assigned for other uses. So again, I think as we look at this chart as a whole, I think the city really is sitting in a good place, again, above its general fund balance policy. Again, that percentage is remaining fairly consistent year over year from the 58 to the 54% range. Again, there was a little bit of an increase in 2020 that was moved again to the assignments. But again, I think overall really a positive result for the city. Again, as we do see, obviously, expenses do continue to go up, and just something to keep in mind for future years. All right, so the next slide we'll go over and just focus on 2023 is the general fund budget to actual. So again, on the screen, we do see the final budget as the left column, the actual amounts in the middle, and the variance with that final budget on the right. So again, if we start on top and look at the revenues, expenditures, we do see that the revenues did have a positive variance of $330,000 approximately, as well as expenditures were a little bit over budget by about $50,000. A couple key reasons for those variances, again, licenses and permits, as well as charges for service, and a big one was investment earnings, again, for the city. All had positive variances in the general fund relating to that. As part of the overages or the budget excess with the expenditures related mainly to the public safety. Again, costs continue to go up related to public safety, and that was over budget, close to $100,000 in total. I think overall, again, as we see here, the net change in fund balance was about $167,000. And just to point out, obviously, the city's general fund does transfer out almost, again, $815,000 to other funds for future needs as well. So again, I think all in all, a really good year for the city's general fund. All right, so the next slide we look at is the general fund revenues and expenditures, and we kind of segment them out by type. So we'll start first on the left with the general fund revenues. And as we can see here, the city of Melrose does have a significant portion of its revenues in the general fund made up of overall tax revenue, as well as intergovernmental revenue from grants in the state of Minnesota. So again, I think we can see here, nothing too significant to point out. I think just that those are the biggest portions, and again, charges for service and others as a really small part of the city. So as we look into the expenditures, again, on a 3-year comparison, we do see things continue to go up with inflation and other related items. But again, I think nothing too significant to point out here, and as we do see, just a good way of looking at how the expenditures are broken out, in a graphical form. All right, so to switch gears a little bit, we'll go into the city's special revenue fund balances. And the city does have a number of those. The MATA, Melrose Area Development Authority, is one of them. Again, that is on the top as a component unit of the city. Again, resources in that fund have grown to about $1 million, which I think is really good for the city for future development needs. The city also has the ARPA fund where expenditures are being made for the grant that was received a couple of years ago, as well as some other non-major funds. Again, I think Overall, nothing too significant to point out other than the fact that there was some land sales and other activity in Nevada that did increase things a little bit in 2023, which is positive. And just to point out also that most of the resources in these funds are committed for specific purposes, only to be used on these special revenue fund, programs and other related fund needs. Next fund we'll go over real quick is just the city's debt service fund. Again, this one is just to point out is governmental and unrelated to enterprise funds. So this bond is getting close to being paid out. What we do see here is just a future principal and interest as well as the remaining interest payments. And again, noting that the year maturity of this bond is to be 2028. Again, the last thing maybe to point out too is that the difference between the bonds outstanding and the total current assets with the future debt service levies. All right, so the next type of funds would be the capital project funds and fund balances. Again, we do see just kind of a listing of those above, with the major funds being capital improvements. And this year, the JOTS tax increment project is also calculated as a major fund. So I think everything really did remain pretty consistent in these funds, with the exception of the capital improvement plan. Again, this one did decrease of close to $1 million. Again, I think this is outlined probably in the city's capital improvement plan and not anything that would be surprising to anybody. But again, I think that is just the main thing that did happen. Capital expenditures exceeded current year resources. Again, I think similar to the prior slide, as we do just point out that most of the resources in these funds is committed for future use. All right, so next we'll switch gears a little bit and go into the city's enterprise funds, again, which there are 4. On each of the enterprise fund slides, you will see the top chart, which is meant to be an operational receipts compared to costs. And the bottom, again, is a cash balance chart, where we also do outline a minimum cash balance of 6 months of operating, and if there's debt, would be the future year's debt plus the 6 months of operating should that debt exist in an enterprise fund. So as we start here looking at the water fund, again, as we do see over the past few years, I guess all 4, the water fund revenues or receipts have exceeded the current year cost, which has related to, again, a nice increase in the water fund, close to $5 million, and again, above the minimum cash balance. So again, I think really positive results for the city's water fund. All right, so the next one we look at is the city's wastewater fund. Again, I think if we look comparing similarly to the water, I think receipts are exceeding those costs, which is a positive thing from an operational perspective. One thing to point out here is that the cash balance has been going down over the past couple of years, and again, I think this is to be expected. The chart above, or the operating chart, does not include capital-related costs, and there has been some capital-related costs related to the wastewater fund over the past few years. Again, the overall cash balance still in excess, again, of that minimum target that was defined earlier. All right, so the next would be the electric fund. Again, I think similar story. I think overall things are looking really good from an operational perspective in the electric fund. Knowing that those receipts continue to exceed those operating disbursements. Again, as we look below, things above that minimum target, as well as a positive trend in the right direction for the overall cash balance in the electric fund. All right, the last enterprise fund would be the city's ambulance fund. Again, I think a little bit of what I've been saying. I think overall really good enterprise fund here, showing that the operating receipts do exceed those costs. I would say that the costs and those revenues do continue to be going up, so something to be aware of. But again, as we look how the results fare with the overall cash balance, a really positive trend in the right direction, and again, overall cash balance above that minimum target. All right, so to tie everything all together, we do just put a cash and investment balance chart together. Again, as we've talked a lot about fund balances and things like that, but it can be nice to know how much money do we have in the bank. And this is the slide that we do that. And again, looking at trends, and I think overall the city looks pretty good as we look at looking at things and really consistent. And again, a little bit of a decrease just based on some of the capital related to 2023 compared to last year, but I think overall an informational chart just to see where all those resources are kept. All right, so we will close with some of our what we call key performance indicators, looking at some things with taxes, debt, as well as operation and capital activity. Again, as we see here, we're going to see some comparisons to Class 4 cities, which is under 10,000 population. as well as a comparison to cities in Stearns County. So the first is the city's tax rate. Again, I think this one has been a really strong trend down, which I think is something that would be a positive result for the city, as the city is decreasing its tax rate. And again, more in line, or definitely comparing favorably to others in the county, as well as under 10,000 population. Next is the taxes per capita. Again, a little bit of a different ratio here, but as we see on a per capita basis, things a little bit on the higher side than when compared to those others in the peer group. But again, I think this one, again, just a different ratio and just dependent on how many people live in the city. All right, I won't spend a ton of time here, but I think the main theme of these, when we look at debt expenditures per capita as well as debt expenditures as a percent of total, I think we can see, the city really doesn't have a lot of debt, and I think that's been, it's been really good for the city. I think, again, a good ratio just to look at, but as a percentage of those total expenditures, definitely going down. All right, so the last slide, looking at the current expenditures per capita as well as capital expenditures per capita, again, in comparison to others in the class in the county. So the first one is our current expenditures per capita. Again, this one really is focusing on just, those current resources for the city, office staff, parks, police officers, things of that nature, on a per city basis in comparison. And again, I think the city compares pretty well to others under 10,000 population, as well as others in Stearns County. The second one is capital-related expenditures per capita, and again, as the city comparison goes a little bit higher than the others, but again, this is just based on overall city need, and really it fluctuates for every city. All right, with that, I've reached the end of my presentation. I appreciate everybody's time and sticking with me as I present. Again, my name is Justin Nelson, partner with Abdo. I'd just like to again reiterate my thanks to everybody at the city for their help as part of the process and just having us as your audit firm. And I do just wish the city good luck in 2024. Thank you.
So also included in tonight's packet is the city's ACPAR, which is our annual comprehensive financial report. There's also the report to the members of governance, and then the other required reports, which are required by government auditing standards. So if you had any questions on any of those, I can tackle them. Otherwise, Justin said I can definitely pass any questions or give you his contact info if you'd like to ask him anything as well.
Thanks for all your hard work this year, too. Appreciate it. Informational items, Melrose Public Utility Commission meeting minutes, the Melrose Ambulance
You have to
Department.
vote on that, Joe.
Oh, gotta vote, sorry.
Yeah, on the audit stuff,
Yeah.
sorry.
And so the council to give consideration accepting the 2023 audit report as presented.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. So then on the informational items, Melrose,
I do have some under informational.
okay.
The meeting we had this morning, the special meeting.
Okay, yeah, Melrose Ambulance Department, report summary, and then there's a list of conferences and schools, and Colleen?
So we had a meeting this morning, and one of the things that we would like to do is have a working meeting with the council and PUC. We're looking at May 5th, so it's a Wednesday. More information to come. But just to give you a little, I'm sorry, May 1st, just to give you a little heads up on that one.
What time's that?
We could do it at 5, if that works for everybody.
In the afternoon.
Yeah, 5 in the afternoon, not 5 in the morning. May 1st.
I won't be around that day, but if I'm the only one missing, you can handle
What's that?
it. I won't be around that night, but if I'm the only one missing, you can
Yeah,
still
it's
do.
the common class stuff, so.
Yeah. And what we'll do is maybe just throw out some.
Yep, we'll throw out some different things.
We're doing sort of on Wednesdays because, Tony's coaching and, we want to try to get everybody here as much as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
This time of the year, it's sort of a tough one if you have kids in sports too, so Wednesday and religion's more or less over with, I think, and so, if anything, let's just check schedules and go from there.
Okay.
Look for something from Patty then, you guys. Thanks.
All right. Is there anything else?
I don't have anything, Mr. Mayor.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.